So I probably make enchiladas once a week. And I wanted to show you 3 of the many ways that I do that. We can eat these for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So many varieties and ways to make enchiladas. Here we go. Okay, so cheese all going in like half of the onion. It's the cheese and onion for me. My salsas. The corn tortilla, give it a quick little dunk, dip, and now you just, there you go. Use this to kind of flip it. Cheese and onion. There we go. Let's just do this. This will be easier to kind of, there we go. Add a nice egg on top. I'm gonna do that. Ta-da! A delicious, easy enchiladas breakfast. Green enchiladas suizas. Let's go. So I sauteed tomatillos, jalapeno, onion, garlic, fresh cilantro going into the blender with some chicken bouillon powder, a little bit of water, Mexican sour cream, and I'm going to blend that up. That is the sauce for these. I love it because it's so easy and so good. I'm going to prep my corn tortillas and pass them through hot oil, cooking oil, to soften them, not make them crispy. I've already shredded rotisserie chicken. My tortillas are ready. I'm going to be using mozzarella cheese into the mix. And in a baking dish, I add some of the sauce, the corn tortilla, fill it with the chicken and cheese, give it a tight roll, and you'll repeat the process for about 14 to 15 of these. Once they are all rolled out, I'm going to add some cheese, the rest of the sauce, cover it with aluminum foil, and I'm going to bake these so that the cheese gets melty, and then it's ready to serve. They're so good. And for another way that I like to make enchiladas, I probably like to make these once a week. My son always requests them. These are a ground beef Tex-Mex version, straight out of my cookbook. So I'm going to cook my ground beef with onion, garlic, salt. Here I add cracked black pepper, ground cumin, give it a mix. There's so many ways to season your ground beef, so do that. So now what I'm going to do is prep my corn tortillas the same way I always do. I'm using Colby Jack cheese, so I'm going to shred that. And for the red sauce, I have oil, a combination of chili powder and seasonings, along with all-purpose flour to make a roux. And this is going to make your enchilada sauce / gravy. Check the comments below for the ingredients. I'm going to pour some in my baking dish and roll these enchiladas out. Cheese, ground beef in the center. You add all of the sauce on top. You're going to add the rest of your cheese, cover with aluminum foil, bake in the oven, and when they are done, you serve them hot with all of that melty, gooey cheese. They're so good. In a pot of water, I've added 8 cleaned guajillo chiles, 1 clove of garlic, small piece of onion. You're going to bring it up to a boil like this. Once it boils, you'll shut off the heat and let it steep for 20 minutes. I placed everything in my blender cup along with 1½ to 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder, a ½ cup of water, and just puree well. Now I'm just going to strain the puree, and I'm going to add another ½ cup of water into my blender cup and pour that through the strainer just to catch anything that stayed behind. And now the enchilada sauce is done and ready to make delicious cheese enchiladas on the griddle. So good. Today I'm making chicken cheese enchiladas using my everyday salsa as a sauce. So to make the salsa, I'm going to be using Roma tomatoes, about 4 to 5, a jalapeno, half of a small onion, 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to saute until there is charring on the exterior. Now that everything is charred and sauteed, I'm going to add it to my blender cup with ½ a cup of water, 1 or 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder. It's really to your preference. And now I'm going to puree well. Next, I'm going to add it to a preheated pot with some cooking oil, and I'm just going to let this simmer. Adjust the salt and seasoning to your preference, and let it gently simmer for 10 minutes. For the corn tortillas, you'll want to pass them through hot oil quickly, and this is just to warm them through and get them soft and pliable. This helps to keep the texture of the corn tortilla when you dip it in the salsa, and it also makes it easier to roll. I'm going to dip it into my warm salsa. This is actually kind of hot still. And now back onto a griddle with oil. Keep your heat at low because if it starts Too high, it'll splatter and burn. I'm adding pepper jack cheese, shredded chicken, and I'm just going to give it a roll and repeat the process and cook this until everything is heated through and the cheese is melted. I have 4 on a plate, and you can garnish how you like. I'm going to add the salsa on top. Remember, this is the sauce. And I'm going to add Mexican crema. You could use sour cream. This is a Mexican style table cream. I'm also going to add some cotija cheese on top. You could add fresh lettuce, avocado. It all works, and it's so good. Now it's time to dig in. So I hope you guys like this video, and maybe it gives you an idea for dinner. This is so good. So most of you may already know that I love to make enchiladas at least once a week. So I'm making enchiladas michoacanas. Here we go. So in a pot, I've already brought around 12 guajillo chiles to a boil. And now I'm going to shut off the heat and let that steep and just soften. I'm going to peel my potatoes. I have about 2 pounds of gold potatoes and 4 large carrots. I'm going to saute the carrots, and I cut these smaller than the potatoes. I'm going to add a pinch of salt to help the saute. And I'm going to cook these and give them a head start for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to add my chunks of potatoes, which are larger than the carrots because the carrots take a longer time to cook and saute. Now I'm going to add a cup of water, and I'm going to cover with a lid and let the water boil and evaporate. Here I've added my softened chilies, a small piece of onion, 2 cloves of garlic, a pinch of salt, and 1 or 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder with the soaking liquid, and I'm going to puree well. And if you have a good blender that purees well, you don't have to strain this. So my potatoes are pretty much done. I'm adding some of that puree, and I'm just going to continue to saute for another 5 to 10 minutes. And once they're all cooked through and tender, it's done. You can set aside until you're ready to serve. In a preheated pot with cooking oil, I'm going to add the puree and let that simmer and cook for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you'll want to taste it for salt and seasoning and adjust to your preference. For the filling, I'm going to use crumbled queso fresco. Sometimes I like to add diced onion into the mix, but I'm just going with the queso fresco cheese today. I'm also going to be working with cold corn tortillas, and I'm just going to take each one and dunk it into my simmered enchilada sauce into a pan. This is preheated with cooking oil, and I'm going to cook it on both sides before I add the cheese. So typically, when I make enchiladas michoacanas, I also like to have chicken served on the side, like cooked chicken pieces, but I'm going for simple today. And you definitely can fill the enchiladas with what you prefer, but I love a very simple cheese enchilada. It's one of my favorites, one of my many favorites. So I'm going to make about 3 of these per serving, 3 or 4 works. And when you garnish, you can garnish how you like. I'm going with shredded lettuce, thinly sliced onion, and some Mexican sour cream right on top with a little extra queso fresco. And then you serve it with the potatoes and carrots that you cooked on the side, and it's the perfect plate. And this is why I have to have enchiladas every week, because they're so good. So I'm making some breakfast enchiladas. Here we go. Oh, so good. So here I'm just warming through some greased corn tortillas. You want to just warm them until they are soft and pliable, not crispy. Here I have some leftover guajillo salsa, basically the same sauce I use for enchiladas, and this is the recipe. For the filling, I'm going with cheese and scallion. You could use onion or no onion. I'm just going to fill my corn tortillas and give it a tight roll. I'm going to spoon on some of the sauce. You could dunk it as well. And now I'm going to place it onto a preheated griddle with oil, and I'm just going to cook these until the cheese is melty and gooey. Now I'm going to top my enchiladas with sunny side up eggs, and I'm adding some more of that sauce, Mexican crema, cotija cheese, the egg, green salsa, and it's time for breakfast. Let's make some creamy chicken enchiladas. 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 5 tablespoons of flour. To add my 2 cups of broth, and you're going to be sure to mix and combine as you pour it in. So this has definitely thickened. 4-ounce can or 113 grams of chopped I'm using mild green chilies, an 8-ounce container of sour cream. To combine this until it is smooth and creamy. Okay, so this is off, but I forgot to mention you'll want to taste it for salt and seasoning and just adjust to your preference. I'm going to add some salt to this to make these pliable and they won't break when you go to roll the enchiladas. So they're cooked through, and here I'm going to just put it right onto my baking sheet. Okay, so here I have all of my shredded chicken. What I'm using today is a combination of mozzarella and mild cheddar cheese. My shredded chicken, cheese, and then I'm just going to tightly roll these. Pull back on the roll to make it tight. And there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour all of the sauce. The cheese, sprinkle it on top. Now I'm going to bake this uncovered in a preheated oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. And if you want a really good cheese crust, maybe about 2 minutes under the broiler. It all works. Oh yes.